Hey guys, welcome to Hooked, the kayak angler's resource. Today we're going to do something a little different. We've got a couple guests with us. Chad Davison, we're going to bring him on, and Jeff Mallott. We wanted to bring those guys on. They are Old Town users and customers. We want to do kind of an Old Town review slash round table and just kind of talk about what people do with that kayak. I'm an Old Town guy myself. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring those guys on.
Hey, what's up, Travis?
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Hey, guys.
Chad, good to hear from you, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, guys. So everybody knows, probably knows Chad from his tournament endeavors, and he's a Big Bass 250 winner, and he's won a lot of other places besides that. And then Jeff Mallott also has put his pole in the water a few times, and also a host of Kayak Bass Nation. So, guys, welcome to the show, and I appreciate you guys being on for sure.
Glad to do it.
Man.
Yeah. So I think what we'll do is, why don't we start with you, Chad? Just tell us what rig you're in, and just a little bit about it as far as how you're fishing it and how you're set up.
Yeah. So I started fishing kayak tournaments just about three years ago, and from the very beginning, I jumped in the AutoPilot 136. It was relatively new at that time, and my background was fishing bass boat tournaments, and it appealed to me because of the integration of the trolling motor, and so it was a natural choice for me, and I've never regretted it one bit. I'm still fishing out of the exact same kayak that I started in. I'm pushing 160 events now in the last 3 years, and every one of them's been out of this AutoPilot. So it's perfect setup for me. I can stand up and fish all day. That's really important to the way I like to fish. Boat control is key when you're fishing wind or current or anything like that. The control with that Minn Kota Ultrex trolling motor with spot lock, it's just it can't be beat for me.
Yeah, I'm actually in the 120, and I had to make a few steps to get to the 120, but yeah, I don't. People talk a lot about the AutoPilots and then putting different motors on different kayaks, and a lot of people ask for different changes on the AutoPilot, but I don't think they have any competition at this point. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the many things about Old Town that I really feel like sets them apart. They're part of Johnson Outdoors, which includes a lot of companies, Minn Kota, Humminbird, and a whole host of other outdoor companies. And what that gives them is the ability for that collaboration between Minn Kota and Humminbird and Old Town to be able to work together to create, kind of the perfect fishing platform that, from day one, you drop that motor in, plug in your battery, and you're ready to go. You don't have to worry about rigging up a motor and trying to figure out how to run all the wiring and fuses and all that stuff. It's set up the way it's supposed to be from the get-go, so you can just start fishing right away. And I think that's what really sets this kayak apart from most of the other fishing platforms out there that you add motors to them, but were they really designed on the drawing board?
We lost him, Travis.
Okay. Well, I will say one thing that Chad, you back?
Yeah, I don't know where you lost me.
No, we lost you kind of on the adding motors to other kayaks. I actually have, one of the beauties of being part of Eco Fishing Shop is we get to go out on a lot of boats. And I don't know how many other boats you've been in, Chad, that have like a motor guide, bow mounter, and I understand all that. And I think if that's the platform you're running, that's a great platform as well. But I think the engineering in that AutoPilot is so spot on that I think that when a bow mount is on really any multitude of kayaks, you get a little twist when you go left to right, you can feel that boat kind of twist a little bit. Well, with I think the low center of gravity and where that motor is placed, and like I said, it's an engineering thing. Whoever did it right. I don't think you get that at all in the Old Town. It's very smooth. Even if you're going full blast and go left or right, that hole doesn't twist on you quite like it does on on other boats that you've added that to, because like you said, that boat originally wasn't made for that.
Right. And the motor placement's perfect. And then, I mean, the fishing platform itself is really great. Even taking the motor out of it, just it's got like a 500-pound payload. So for somebody like me that takes way too much stuff, I've got room for all this. I take 2 6-gallon tackle crates full of lures and plastics and all that, plus another little toolbox of emergency necessities, and that's just in the back. I've got my lunch box in the front, and sometimes I got another box in the front. And I mean, if you're a big guy or big gal and you want to, you're worried about stability, this is the ideal platform, because you are not going to flip this boat over. I would bet money that you would have a really hard time. You could fall out of it for sure, but it would be really hard to flip it over.
That's what we tell people. You'll fall out before you can get it pulled over. But
yeah.
So Jeff, I know, where did you start off? Where was the middle, and where are you at now?
Yeah, man. I told you before we started recording, this hat is from, I've been with Old Town since they released the Predator PDL back in 2016. Got this hat when I got that boat, and it's still plugging along. It's nasty and dirty and sweaty, but I love that platform. Now it's the BigWater PDL, of course, but love that platform. But I'm no longer fishing out of one of those. But I'd like to touch on the AutoPilot thing if I can, even though that's not going to be my platform this year. I fished out of a 120 and a 136. Loved them both. And I'll echo what both of y'all said. You can carry way too much stuff, which was a problem for me. I put every rod and reel and tackle box that I owned in the deck, in the rear tank well, everywhere, just to carry it all. So yeah, amazing platform. And my co-host Ryan Lambert from our podcast, he just got one. Really? And he was unwrapping it in the garage to the water in 15 minutes. He lives by the lake, of course, but that speaks to that plug and play capability, because no rigging, you pop the motor out, put the battery under the seat, plug it in, and he was fishing. So for people that aren't great at DIY, and I'm one of those people, it's awesome to have a platform that is literally made for it. You're not retrofitting it or for anything like that. So yeah, amazing platform. This year and actually last year too, I fished tournaments out of a Sportsman 120 PDL. A little bit shorter platform, a little bit slower than the BigWater. I did that for a lot of reasons, and I'll tell you the number one reason. And this may be kind of near and dear to your heart, Travis. I wanted more exercise while tournament fishing, which seems kind of weird, but I was getting out of shape, man. And that 120 is a little harder to pedal than the Predator or the BigWater, just because of the hull shape. It pushes a little more water, things like that. But I didn't mind that, because it's ultra stable too for even a little shorter boat and a pedal boat. You'll fall out before you flip it, just like some of the other boats Old Town makes. But I'm in that one, and it suits my needs great, because I like to fish shallow anyway. I can pull the drive, still paddle it if I need to, take it up on one of these Ozark rivers. So it's kind of a do-it-all little boat for me the last 2 years.
What is one question we get on our forum, and then also just with customers, that you're the guy that could probably answer, is what is the stability difference between that BigWater 132 and the 120?
I've argued with guys about that, because they'll tell, you see people argue both. The BigWater is more stable. And if you're counting the secondary stability of the BigWater, it's just as stable to me, because if your feet are below the water line in that thing, the way the holes cut, and if you can trust it enough to let that secondary stability catch, never tipped it, never fell out of a BigWater or Predator. But just straight up standing up in the 120, it's more like a platform. It doesn't rock like the BigWater, because the BigWater's got more of a concave hole to take big water. That's why it's named that.
Right.
Whereas that Sportsman is a little more like standing on a deck, more like the AutoPilot, something like that, just a flat deck. But both are very stable.
And Chad, Mason Brock. Mason's got a 136 AutoPilot. He also has a 106 PDL, and he actually said probably the most surprising thing to him was in standing in that Sportsman platform. he can't tell much difference between the 106 and the 136. He said they're both very, very stable. And that kind of surprised me a little bit, being, it's such a smaller boat. But that Sportsman platform is really, really nice. And like you said, super stable. I've just never done much with a BigWater. And that's a question we get quite often. So,
yeah, I've been in some of the roughest water. I fished in the Gulf with it. I fished big open lakes with it, and it's never wavered. It actually does great in heavy chop, big waves, hence the name, of course. But yeah, super stable boat, just different kind of stability.
Yeah. Have you ever had a motor on your kayak, or just when you had the AutoPilot?
Just when I never retrofitted one. I've always been paranoid of that. You talked about those hull mounted or bow mounted trolling motors. I've seen too many videos of what if you T-bone something with one of those, there's nowhere for it to go. Whereas the AutoPilot's got a kill switch, kicks up, releases. Right. I've seen some, Gene Jensen's got a famous one where he hits a tree on Caddo Lake, and it starts doing donuts around him because it doesn't kill the motor there. But yeah, no thanks on that.
Yeah, not to
guys, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, not to mention, I haven't ever owned one that's set up like that, but I can only imagine if you get your fishing line hung in the prop, or if you get weeds hung in the prop up front or anything like that, it seems like it would be very difficult to kind of remedy that versus, the AutoPilot, you just kick the motor up. It's right there. You can take the prop off. You need to clean line out or whatever. You don't have to like pull up on the bank and to try to take care of those situations.
Yeah. I've heard a lot. You're going to shore for sure.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of rumors of people floating the idea of putting a stern mount on their AutoPilot. Double motors.
Yeah,
go from spot to spot and then pull it up, put the spot lock down.
Yeah, I've heard people talking about that. We've had a lot of customers kind of talking about that in here as well. Getting something just to go spot to spot.
Yeah.
And we've done that with, we get a lot of guys who will do that with a Sportsman 120. Mm-hmm. They'll look at putting a bow mount on it or a stern mount on it. That way they can go pre-fish in that. And then if they're ever going to do a tournament that doesn't allow motors, then they can use it for pre-fishing and things like that.
Yep. And on mine, I've got all the gadgets. I've got the Humminbird electronics, and I put the power pole micro on the back, which it comes pre-set up so that all you got to do is basically, screw in the mounting hardware to mount that power pole on the back, and then that gives you some more options for anchoring in shallow water. A lot of people ask about why would you have both, and for me, when I'm in really shallow water or possibly like a lot of vegetation, it's nice to be able to kick the motor up and be really quiet, and maybe even use your paddle to push yourself along, and then you can drop that power pole and be able to hold yourself without spooking the fish. So it does have some uses, and it's nice that it comes pre-set up for that as well.
Yeah, Chad, did you see that episode of Greg DePalma talking about how he used his power pole in the Minn Kota at the same time?
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing you can do is you can drop the power pole, which typically if you hit spot lock, it's going to point the bow of the boat into the wind. If you drop the power pole, then it's going to flip around, and your boat is going to be facing the direction that the wind is blowing to. And what you could do is you could drop your power pole. That's going to hold you in place, but then you can use your motor to turn you in whatever direction that you want to be facing, and it'll just hold you in that direction if you set it to. And so there's a lot of options for boat control there using the two things together.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Yeah, definitely. I saw that as well. Jeff, what did you think besides just, or maybe this is the only difference? You said you had the 120 and the 136. Could you tell any differences between those two?
I carried a little bit less stuff, just a little bit less stuff in the 120, but not much. There's plenty of room in it. The reason I went from a 136 was the first boat I had to a 120 to be able to turn around in tighter spots.
Yeah.
We're up here, all of us here are in the Ozarks and stuff. So if you're fishing in behind docks or in between docks or in little cuts, you can 360 literally with that AutoPilot. If you kick the rudder right and just hit the motor, and the 120, you can just do it a little bit easier, tight spots.
Yeah, I did it for the same reason. And then the other reason is, I'm not a tournament guy. I just pleasure, fish. So I wanted it for the difference in how easy it was to handle not in the water, put in the bed of a truck, that type of thing. I thought, a 12 foot is just more manageable for me. So, and it's got all the space I would need, but I get where, guys like Chad that are, putting, several days in a row out there on their, fishing tournaments where that 136, that extra room is nice. And I know a lot of guys, the cool thing is there's so many different ways to rig these things. I know like we have the Sasquatch bar, and they're good for some people, not for others. I know Chad, you looked at it and said that, the way you fish, it really wouldn't work for you, but it's cool seeing how people do different things with their autopilots. I wish they had a swivel seat figured out. I'd love to have a swivel seat. Beyond that, I think the Sportsman platform, not just the AutoPilot, but I love the Sportsman platform. I think, like I said, I think Old Town's got that figured out. I don't really know anybody that's competition for them because nobody has a pre-built, ready to go. I mean, like you said, Chad, you got 2 plugs and a red and a black, and you're on the water.
Yeah.
And on top of all that, man, the quality. I mean, for Chad and I, we're tournament anglers. So if you're, Chad, if he drives all the way down to Caddo Lake, he can't afford for some malfunction. You can't afford for a hole to crack or something to malfunction. And the Old Towns, no boat's perfect, but the reliability is off the charts. Like he said, he's fished 160 out of his. It's still clicking.
Yeah, and I've literally had zero problems. Nothing that has cost me any time on the water. I even bought, just because I was a little bit paranoid, I bought a spare trolling motor, and I've never needed it, but they don't break down. Their customer service is phenomenal, but I think it's pretty unusual to have to use it.
Yeah. Chad, I'm glad you said that. One thing, we talk about that in the store here all the time. We rarely have an issue with an Old Town. If we do, when you call their customer service, they're almost embarrassed that they had a problem. It's, give me the serial numbers, give me this, give me that. Let's get it fixed right away. Let's get the customer dealt with. And then once we get the customer taken care of, then let's figure out what exactly happened. And they'll track it back to, that was a Friday at 3:00 with a guy that was a trainee and he forgot to put Loctite on the pedal. They've done that before. And we don't have a lot of companies, not everybody's like that. And it's nice when you get a company like that their customer service is so invested into their products, and they're not used to having problems because they're just made right the first time. I feel like that they're a pleasure to deal with for us on the retail side for sure.
And on the front end with their engineering on the things that they knew were going to break easily or even designed to break, like the clamps that hold the drive down on all the pedal drives, things like that. I'm calling it the wrong thing, but you know what I'm talking about. And the props on the pedal drives, things like that.
Yeah,
they made them affordable so that you can buy 3 or 4, and it doesn't matter if they break because they're designed to break to preserve the actual hardware behind your motor and your pedal drive and things like that. So I think that was a genius thing, is to make them easy to replace, number one, and the things that were bound to hit trees and rocks and everything else, very affordable to replace.
They are. We talk about that as well, about the fact that, if you break a prop, it's $20-$25, and not everybody's like that either. And then, little things, that they kind of find as they go, like moving the magnet on the AutoPilot. I don't, Chad, is yours still up front?
Yeah. So, I told you I bought that replacement motor to have it spare, and they had done a little bit of a design change in between there. So that setup was a little bit different, but I was amazed that it was backwards compatible. So even though those, like the safety interlocks and stuff, the magnets that they have for the interlock, the positioning had changed a little bit on that design, but the new design still worked perfectly in the older unit that hadn't been updated yet. So I've had zero problems with any of that.
Yeah, that's I know they had a little bit when it was up front in the beginning, just here and there. I think that also depends on how you fish and how rough you are, but yeah, I think watching how they kind of evolve and just listen on little things like that has been great. I would like to get you guys' thoughts on the new ePDL.
The concept of the boat, because I'll be honest, I have not sat in one yet. I've not got to demo one yet.
We've not either. We don't have them yet in store, but yeah, what do you think about the concept?
I think it makes tournament directors' heads hurt because they don't know what to call it.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard one to test.
Everything I've been hearing about it has been positive. I mean, I think there's definitely, you know, I think that that boat may have been designed for not only tournament bass fishermen, but I'm sure there's a lot of other people who fish, saltwater fishermen or inshore fishermen and stuff like that, that were also in mind when they designed that boat. But what some of the things I've heard about it is that it's extremely well designed. It's an innovative design. The controls work really well, and it's fast. And that's what I've heard a lot. Is it's a very fast boat. It's that BigWater
Right.
hull, and you know, from everything I understand it, you can still put a regular BigWater pedal drive in it, so it offers you that flexibility if you want to have just a pedal drive boat. But then you've also got that ePDL drive that allows you to just hands-free move from spot to spot at a very quick pace. And so I definitely think that it's going to be a great boat for a lot of people out there. I personally, I'm so in love with my AutoPilot that it probably, it's not something that really appeals to me that much, but obviously it's won a lot of industry awards. So they put a lot of thought into it, and I think they really knocked it out of the park.
I think I think so too. I think that I personally, on the retail side of things, just with what I do for a living, I don't see it so much as a tournament boat. I don't think the tournament guys, are. I don't, like I said, I think people really fall in love with the AutoPilot, but I do think that for guys that want to travel, I mean, on a body of water, I know a ton of people who would like to have that because, like on Lake of the Ozarks or even, coastal. If you want to get in the coast and run through tributaries or in the bay or things like that, I think that kayak makes a ton of sense. I go up to Fort Morgan and redfish up there a little bit, and that would be a perfect kayak for that, where you can really cover some water. It's fast, and then you don't have to worry about a whole lot, because if the battery dies, you just start pedaling. And the AutoPilot would kind of scare me, covering that much water. But I think that the place for that one is I think it's going to be a little bit of everybody, but I can see a lot of our customers and people that would be a real fail-safe. It's the same guys who come in and want a 120 with a Newport on the back. They want the work, but they don't want to get stuck 4 miles from home and trying to figure it out. So
yeah, I've been in some spots with my BigWater where it was easy getting there, but with the wind ripping back into your face for 45-minute pedal, having that ePDL assist would have been fantastic. So, and I tell you, it's the BigWater hull is the fastest pedal drive kayak out there anyway. So adding the ePDL component to it, I bet it's like a rocket. We don't do shotgun starts anymore, Chad. We used to do them back in the day when I first started doing this, but if we did, it'd be the one.
That would be the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, last kind of thing you wanted to kind of ask about too is, so if you could make any changes to your boat, anything that you would like to see happen, or that you're missing, or that you just like to see changes on, what would that be, Jeff?
Across the lineup for all the Sportsmans, I think that this has been beat to death, but people would like to see some horizontal rod storage in there, just because of some of the funky places we fish, going under dock wires, trees, whatever. They'd like to have that option. For the AutoPilot, I know a lot of people want a little more speed, although I don't think speed's that essential. I mean, you're going 4 miles an hour as opposed to 4.5, big
Right.
deal. But a lot of people want a little more speed. So if they could somehow crank that up, I don't know if that'd be a prop change or a different head unit on that motor or whatever, but horizontal rod storage, for sure. Maybe a little more power on the AutoPilot, but I think it's fine the way it is, to be honest. And they've done a pretty good job giving you options to pre-wire and things like that for a lot of the electronics, but maybe going next level with some of that as well. Some plug and play ability with some of the Humminbird stuff or whatever.
Great stuff. Chad?
Yeah, well, I mean, Jeff pretty much took all the things that I would have said as well. I mean, speed is always an issue. Really the only drawbacks for me to the AutoPilot are that it's a heavy boat, and that just comes with the territory. It's a heavy, stable boat, and you can see like hanging up right here above me. That was kind of like the boat that filled a need for me, is if you fish rivers or you want to grab and go kayak for smaller bodies of water. We haven't really even talked about it, but the salty PDL, that really seemed like the perfect choice for me to have, like a smaller boat, weighs less than 80 pounds with no seat or pedal drive in it, but it's the cheapest pedal drive that Old Town sells. It's the fastest. 6 miles per hour is a very real number pedaling that boat, and it's still a, it's got all the Old Town quality, and it's been a great option for me to be able to take it on a river or something like that. Obviously, the AutoPilot's probably not a great choice for these small rivers. A lot of the smallmouth streams we have here in Missouri and stuff like that. To me, it was just a matter of needing a different boat. It's not something I could really improve about the AutoPilot, but.
Right.
Chad, I said something about the Predator being the fastest boat, and of traditional tournament fishing rigs, I think it is. But you mentioned that salty. I didn't even think about that. I watched that thing drag race every boat at Paddle Sports Retailer one year when they were demoing them all, and it is a straight rocket because of how light it is, the whole shape, everything like that.
Yeah, and it's still it's pretty stable boat, and the cheapest, the lightest, and the fastest pedal drive that Old Town makes. So it could be a good option for a lot of people in situations that I don't think it quite gets the love as some of the other kayaks.
I would agree, and especially on the river where, or not just the river, but when you're talking about not needing a lot of in-hole storage and things like that, the Salty is a great platform. I mean, it is a faster hull for sure than the Sportsman. I'll tell you the one that I miss, and the numbers weren't great on it, but it is a really good boat in the river, was that Predator MX.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the only thing that I think slightly is missing from Old Town's lineup right now is a kayak like that competes with like the Jackson Bite. The Jackson Bite is a great river kayak for our rivers. A lot of shallows, things like that. That MX was I think it was 11.5 foot, very fast boat. And I thought that was a really good kayak, because that's I tend to have problems. Our water's so shallow here that taking our Sportsmans into the rivers a little tough. But other than that, man, I think the lineup is pretty well rounded, and like you said, Old Town, Maine, they've been there for years doing kayaks and canoes, and it's hard to beat the engineering that they've come up with on these boats.
Travis, my original Predator PDL had that floor, that MX floor with the cross. Floor,
Yeah, I love that thing. I would like to find one, but well, guys, man, I really appreciate it. Thanks for being on. I just wanted to kind of talk Old Town a little bit, and I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks, Chad. Jeff, appreciate you. Hey, guys, I just want to say thanks again to Jeff Mallott and Chad Davison. Really good information, and just like I said, I wanted to get together and just talk Old Town. You're going to see some more of these from us. We're going to do some with Hobie and Wilderness and a little bit of everything that we do. But stay tuned on those. Any questions you may have, hit us up on the forum. We'd love to bring your questions to some of the people that we have on. And if you're interested in being on, hit us up on the forum. We'll see what we can do. So, guys, I appreciate you watching this episode. Travis Randall, and I'm out.